Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on a single video. I just wanted to say I'm pleasantly surprised to learn that so many of you are watching during the day. I was gonna hold off on this until later on, but since I know a lot of you guys are here and watching videos, let's go for a recap of the 15th episode of the 8th season of Teen Mom 2. The episode started off with the Dejesus family congregated in the living room at like 4:30 a.m. And yes, again, that included young Nova, and they were still bitching about the fact that Lewis had left in the middle of the night before. Remember, Lewis probably left, 90% chance that he left in the middle of the night because of the way that, you know, Briana's mom emasculated him in front of everybody, including her friends, his daughter, his daughter's half-sister, like everybody. And I don't know why they were complaining about it, because when he initially brought up the idea of staying with them all these nights, it was his idea, first of all. Briana was like, oh, being around him makes me so uncomfortable. And then her mom would constantly badger Lewis about the whole staying thing. He's like, well, how long is this gonna work out for? How long are you staying? Blah, blah, blah. So he leaves one night because of the way they treat him like shit, and it's World War III. They have to get Nova up and, you know, whining with them. I feel so bad for that girl, because the family is just so negative to constantly be around. The real kicker in this scene was that Briana literally had the nerve to text Lewis to tell him to get his shit together, because he's a grown-ass man with 2 kids. And it's like, Briana, if you had your shit together, you would not have been knocked up by a guy you met at the club like a month later. Sit down somewhere. Over and over, Kail and her friend are sitting out back talking about vacationing in St. Thomas next week, despite the fact that Javi's child support case is the same week. On the flip side, Javi FaceTimes his friend to talk about that bullshit PFA that Kail had filed against him to be spiteful, and how he will only drop his bid for child support if she drops the PFA, because that would affect his career and stuff. And I just felt like it was in really bad taste and bad judgment to have that aired out on television. And he actually took things a step further by literally telling his friend that he didn't need Kail's money. I was like, you know what? You are going to regret saying that. I'm pretty sure you will regret saying that one day, but you know, here we are. I mean, Lincoln deserves the child support, and if the roles were reversed, Kail would absolutely not let up on getting child support from you. Now, things get really eerie when producers arrive at David and Jenelle's home and stand outside talking about text messages that they received from Jenelle, saying that she and David were arguing for hours. She's been crying. They have to cancel their save the date photo shoot because it got so bad. Jenelle even said that David puts her down and curses her out, and that David would call the police in 5 minutes if the producer and the photographer did not leave the property. I mean, it's one thing to throw that kind of fit over a producer, but a photographer that you literally hired to shoot your save the date engagement shoots, that's a little bit more than she probably bargained for, and it just goes to show how bad things had gotten. Kristen has always been the messiest producer of all time, in my opinion. Like, I've never liked her. And so, because, you know, let's pause here. None of us really like Jenelle, but at the same time, you have to have a certain level of sensitivity when you're dealing with someone who's obviously being abused, and to poke and prod at a situation specifically for television is not very ethical, in my humble opinion. So anyway, the next day, Kristen returns and everything is really eerie in the house. Like, she's just like walking on eggshells as she walks in, because she knows, you can sense energy. Like, she probably sensed how much tension was in that house. And so she walks in, she goes, hey guys, how are you doing? Is everything going better today? Better than that fight that you had yesterday? And so Jenelle's like, you know what, look at my jellyfish. Aren't they crazy? Come on, dude, let's see my jellyfish. And Kristen just won't let up. She's like, these are great jellyfish, but about that fight you had yesterday, everything okay over here? And David just was absolutely not having it at that moment. He's like, what fight? And he just looked like he was ready to strangle her, okay? And so at that point, he turns over to Jenelle and goes, there was no fight, was there? And Jenelle just looks down at the baby. She's like, look at the baby, nothing's happening, rainbow song. And David's like, you know what, you guys, you always want to talk about bad things. Why don't you focus on the good stuff, huh? Slaps on his glasses and he's like, I'm going to the hardware store to get some stuff for my wedding. And he just leaves them all there. And you know what, if you go back and look at his daughter Marissa, you can just tell that she has seen some things. You know, like you can just see in her face that she saw some things, and she knows what Uncle David is trying to hide. And, you know, looking at Jenelle as well and how she refused to look up even for like 2 seconds, that some serious shit went down. One really sad thing about this entire situation is that Jenelle has cried wolf so many times on so many different people. And now it seems like she really is like in a really seriously abusive situation. But unfortunately, she might have done it so many times that people won't really believe her anymore. And I think she kind of senses that herself. And it's sad that like now that she's with like the most abusive person ever, she's trying to hide it, as opposed to old Jenelle, who would like, you know, be all the way up here on 100 calling police, this, that, and the other. Like, it's crazy to see the complete 180 she's done, you know, with this one person. Back in West Virginia, Leah's kids get physical over beef jerky while eating truck stop hot dogs and drinking Slurpees in the back of her car. Oh my God. This reminds me, like in all these years, I don't think I've ever seen them eat a fruit or a vegetable or even like a proper meal. I don't know how these kids function off all the junk they eat. Now, Javi drops Lincoln off at Kail's house and opens the mail that she hands to him, and for some reason she decides to have a bitch fit about that. Like, why are you opening mail in the house? Well, Petty Betty, because your ass handed it to me and here I am, so open. Javi like tries to sit down to talk to her, and she's like, why are you sitting down? Well, Kail, because we've got some things to discuss, like, come on. So he sits down, and Lincoln and Kail asked Lincoln if she told Daddy about their upcoming trip to St. Thomas, and Javi's like, no, he didn't tell me. And don't we have a child support hearing next week? And Petty Betty was like, well, I thought you dropped it. I thought you were gonna drop child support. And Javi's like, no, slow your roll, okay? Like, you were supposed to drop that PFA and then I would drop my child support thing. And Kail's like, well, I mean, we've been talking. There's no reason for me to have a PFA. Like, she literally admits that that PFA was absolute bullshit. And here her basic ass is on television, literally bargaining protection from abuse order for him to drop child support in order for her to go on vacation. She's literally like, I'll stop claiming you abused me if you let me go on vacation. In what world is that okay? Like, she just keeps clogging up the court system for actual victims of abuse who already have a difficult enough time, you know, getting PFAs or restraining orders or whatever. It's really sad to see her consistently like act a fool like this. So Javi again reiterates, I need proof from you, Petty, if I'm going to be dropping my child support case. And the conversation pretty much ends there. Louis tells Briana that he may not be able to make it back home that day because of an oil change with his car. And again, they all sit down in front of Nova to stress and complain. Briana brings up how she should have put the baby up for adoption, and again cries in front of Nova as her mom literally lies to her face and tells her that she's amazing and doing a great job. No. In a rare extended Corey sighting, he actually takes the girls out fishing, and Aaliyah actually catches a fish and has a really exciting time, but Allie isn't having the most fun out there. At first she seemed to be having fun, but I guess it was lasting too long, so she was like, you know, getting antsy and wanted to go home. That frustrated Aaliyah because she was you know, getting to bond with Corey and having a good time fishing, and so she took it out on poor little Allie in the truck, you know, beating her with some kind of a toy or whatever. Corey snatches a toy and tells the producer that he really thinks it's time to put Aaliyah in therapy because she does seem to be acting out due to a lack of attention. Next up, Chelsea takes Aubree cake tasting and later talks about changing Aubree's last name with her, claiming that it was Aubree's own idea. I'm pretty sure that Chelsea and Cole have been together, what, like 4 years, if even that. I don't believe it's a good idea to be hyphenating Aubree's last name quite yet, and I also do not believe that it's Aubree's idea. I mean, Aubree's always had a different last name to Chelsea, so why all of a sudden she would come up with this hyphen? Do kids even know about hyphenating last names at that age? I didn't. But, you know, maybe Aubree's like gifted or something, and this is at the top of her fucking agenda. And I feel like at this stage in the game, Chelsea should have just told Aubree, listen, last names don't make up a family. You're no less a part of this family because your last name is different, you know, because they don't know for sure, first of all, if they can even get the name hyphenated. And second of all, is it really that big of a deal? Third of all, it's probably too soon. She and Cole have not been together that long. Jenelle is driving to pick up Jace when her mom, Barbara, calls her, you know, kind of yelling, frustrated out of the gate about her not booking a venue for Jace's birthday. And I felt like, Barbara, come on, don't yell at her out of the blue like that. You know how she is, and it's only gonna make things worse for her, Jace, the drop off, everything. She should have, you know, handled that a lot better. Jenelle yells, oh, you want custody of Jace so bad, but you won't help me plan the birthday. Then give him back. Jenelle, he's not like a puppy or a sweater. That's not exactly how it works. So anyway, they meet up at a restaurant parking lot where Barbara gives Jenelle Jace's anxiety pills and tells her, listen, you're gonna have to start going to therapy with him. And by the way, don't bring David, because the therapist says that his anxiety is flaring up like never before about the idea of living with David. Apparently you keep planting the seed of like all of you guys living together in his head. And stupid ass Jenelle's like, yeah, you don't think I'm gonna take your ass to court next year? Jenelle, the judge gave Barbara permanent custody of Jace. Like, what you've done is so serious that this is the court decree. Like, you don't have a chance in a year. Like, get off your high horse. So anyway, Barbara's like, yeah, whatever. Just so you know, you have to go into therapy with Jace without David. And have you guys noticed that Jenelle's been picking up Jace without David ever since their last court settlement? Like, it seems like that's been part of the order. And for some reason, here he is. And now they're married, despite the fact that Jace seems to be so scared of David that all these precautions need to be put in place. Like, talk about egg donor. Back in Delaware, Kail and her friend talk about how Javi's giving her a hard time dropping the case until she sends him proof of the PFA being dropped, which she did. And she says that she's been trying to reach out to him, but he hasn't been picking up her calls or anything like that. And I've got to say, I'm pretty proud of Poppy's petty side, because I do think that Kail deserves a taste of her own medicine based on the way she treats people, files these bullshit orders all willy-nilly. Like, good, make her sweat, Poppy. That's exactly what we look for around here. But as expected, she calls him and he says that he will be dropping the case. It's time to drop the twins off with Leah, and she and Corey, you know, before they head off, have a talk about how Leah's been acting out a lot lately, and it seems like she wants, you know, attention because she doesn't really quite understand the depth and gravity of what her twin sister's dealing with and why she requires all this extra attention. Back in Chelsea land, she has Aubree rehearse the script that she had her practice about why she wants to change her last name. And like, just the way she looks at her, to me, reminds me of a pageant mom training like the kid, like, all right, sparkle baby. And in really sad news, actually, Briana talks about how her new baby Stella wasn't breathing properly and her hands or feet were going blue. She texts Lewis about how they're taking her to the hospital and requests that he kind of meets them there. And unfortunately, he hadn't responded yet by the time we saw it, and we didn't hear anything else about it for the remainder of the episode. Okay, you guys, this is where it gets really, really, really grim. I mean, the gaslighting and stuff that happened earlier with David, you know, being really upset that Jenelle even told people about their fight was bad. But now it gets like double extra bad, okay? Because right now, David and Jenelle are shooting their save the date photos. They canceled on that photographer who originally came when they were having that blowout fight, and they refused to shoot the photos. And Jenelle claims that they can do it themselves, and by themselves, they mean they're gonna have Kristen do it without asking nicely, no please or thank yous or anything like that. The two of them get up on that little bench thing, start kissing or whatever, and little Kaiser, being a curious 3-year-old, comes to look at the camera. Oh, what are you guys doing? Let me look over here. Jenelle, as always, has to make everything a lot more dramatic than it is. Instead of allowing Kristen to just keep Kaiser away from it, she's like, Kaiser, get away from the camera, which triggers, you know, caveman David into going, oh, fine, let me protect Fiona. And he goes, without even question, grabs little 3-year-old Kaiser by the arm and pulls him across the yard so hard that this little boy's feet are not even touching the effing ground. And he drags him to where Jace is. Jace is on a swing of sorts, and he kind of stops the swing and almost pushes Kaiser into it, which almost knocks Jace off the friggin' swing. A normal mother would be like, whoa, 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 this guy is dragging my child, manhandling my child, and about to knock over my other one. Like, let me get my baseball bat because it's game over for his ass. But Jenelle is not a mother. She is an egg donor. So Jenelle just, you know, casually waits for him to get back so they can continue shooting their save the date photos. Like, what the heck? The look of pure terror in Kaiser's eyes when David approaches lets you know that this is a regular occurrence and that he knows what's up. Kaiser then starts crying about how he's starving, feed me, and Jenelle's response to all of this is, oh, he just needs to sleep, let's ignore him, kiss me, babe. And David tries yelling at Kaiser, because when a 3-year-old's crying because they're hungry, the solution is to yell at them, right? And Jenelle's like, no, ignore it. Kiss me. Let's get these photos done. I'm hot as hell. Really? Really? Are you freaking serious? So they continue taking these photos while little Kaiser is in the back crying about how hungry he is. How creepy is that photo to look back on now that we know what's been going on the entire time that they were shooting? By the way, Kail actually subtweeted this night. She was like, you know what? Like, as that scene was playing, it just goes to show you that you shouldn't believe every fairy tale you see on social media, because just look at what happens behind the scenes. I'm quite disappointed that MTV did not issue any kind of warning, disclaimer, anything about that, because what we saw, the way David manhandled that 3-year-old, was, to me, really was really inappropriate and uncalled for, and extreme excessive use of force as well. Like, they should have had some kind of disclaimer, like, this is not how you handle children. If your child is crying that they're hungry and starving, you feed them, like something, because this was so intensely I felt disgusting looking at it, let's just say. And now in the final scene of the episode, Leah takes Aaliyah to the park and they talk about how Allie, is unique because of her medical issues and requires certain kinds of attention that Aaliyah doesn't require. And poor Aaliyah asks if Allie is kind of different or disabled because she squished her in the womb, because she's so tall. And I was just so sad to see her even ask that. And it really did remind me of what Leah asked herself when she found out that Allie was suffering from muscular dystrophy. She was like, is it because I was too tiny to carry twins? Like, was I too small to carry twins? Did she get enough oxygen? This and that. And, Leah explained to her that no, this is not like a room issue or anything like that. It's about genetics, and it's just the way the cards were dealt for Allie. And it was a very beautiful, sweet scene between the two of them, and I'm so proud of how far Leah's come from what she was, just a couple of seasons ago. Like, really proud to see how far she's come and how well she's able to handle the girls these days. A lot better than she was before. She's come leaps and bounds from where she was in the height of her drug addiction. You guys, this was a pretty heavy episode of Teen Mom 2. We learned that Stella's got breathing problems. Her hands and feet are going blue. We saw David gaslight Jenelle, looked like he almost threatened her in the first scene. We saw them ignore a starving Kaiser, him manhandle the child yet again. And now we're dealing with Aaliyah being aware of her twin sister's muscular dystrophy and how it affects her as a twin as well. Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions on this episode in the comment section down below, and as usual, we'll chat. You can also like this video, subscribe for more. Feel free to share it with your friends as well, and follow me across social media where I absolutely love chatting with you. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.